Blake Toppmeyer with John Adams of the USA Today Network in Hoover, Alabama on day 2 of SEC Media Days. John, we heard from first-year Tennessee coach Josh Hypo today, second coach to take the stage. I thought the biggest victory for Josh Hypo today was that no one asked him about the ongoing NCAA investigation into the alleged recruiting malfeasance by his predecessors. I thought that was a pretty good small victory for Hypo to go 30 minutes and be able to keep the focus on what he's building and trying to build in his program and not have to discuss any transgressions in the past. What did you think about Hypo's showing today at Media Days?
Well, like many veteran coaches, even though he's a rookie at this event, like many veteran coaches, he had a fairly long monologue, which reduces the questions you will take. And nobody from the Tennessee media asked that. Tennessee media was able to get him off to the side early. Part of that might be that folks have forgotten about the investigation. I mean, all of that news broke when Jeremy Pruitt was a coach right at the end of his era, and he was fired because of it with cause. And I think people are more interested in the transition, all the transfers he lost. He was asked about that. I thought he held himself okay. This is not his strength. He's not a big personality. He hasn't been in this kind of setting before, I wouldn't think. In his conference as a head coach, you just don't get that kind of media attention. But I thought he did all right. He did like most first-time Tennessee coaches at this event. He talked a lot about Tennessee's tradition and the iconic Power T he mentioned more than once. He did just what you advised him not to do in a column, so you might want to address that.
Yeah, I thought overall Josh Hypo was able to touch on the direction he wants to take this program. I thought he did a nice job explaining his brand of offense, his brand of football, and how it is a quarterback-friendly offense, but it's not all about the quarterbacks. Running backs have put up big numbers in his offense, too. Offensive lines have played really well in his offense, too. But I did think a little bit too much time, maybe, as you said, mentioning the history of Tennessee football and the iconic logo, because recruits today, they weren't alive the last time Tennessee was on top of college football. So I think by talking about history, all you do is remind folks of really just how long it's been that Tennessee was on top of the college football world. I mean, Josh was talking about how when he played in college, Tennessee was still humming along as a strong program. Well, Josh Hypo's in his 40s. It's been a while since he played in college. But aside from that, I thought pretty much what we expected from Josh Hypo, and I thought he did a reasonable job outlining the direction that he wants to go in his program.
The thing he said that I found the most interesting, and again, he's trying to be very complimentary of his program, his transfers that joined the program, not the ones that left, and his quarterbacks. Quarterback competition is a big deal at entering this season. And the way he talked about Joe Milton from Michigan, great arm, accurate thrower, picking up the offense fast. He's a good runner. See, I'd kind of written him off as a candidate for the job. I thought the fact that he missed spring practice, that he was behind the other guys. But after listening to Josh Hypo, I'm thinking, well, I'm not writing him off anymore. He sounds like a legitimate candidate. Even though he struggled at the end of last season, he kind of got worse as the season went along in Michigan. But I think I have a hard time believing that Hypo would just be blowing smoke. I mean, I think it was genuine what he was saying. I mean, he went and got this guy, even though he already had several quarterbacks. And so he seems to be very high on him. So we'll see how that works out. But that was interesting to me.
This is day 2 of a 4-day event. John and I will be here all week. You can check out our new podcast, SEC Football Unfiltered, in which we'll go a little bit deeper into our thoughts about SEC Media Days and what we heard this week. At SEC Football Unfiltered podcast will drop on Thursday morning. John, one of the other coaches we heard from today was the much-anticipated return of Lane Kiffin to SEC Media Days. Of course, Kiffin is entering his second season at Ole Miss, but this event did not happen last year because of the pandemic. I thought Kiffin delivered the quips as you would expect. He got some laughter from the crowd, as you would expect. He really was blown away by Nick Saban saying at a conference in Texas today that his quarterback, Bryce Young, is nearing $1 million in endorsement deals from the new name, image, and likeness landscape. Lane Kiffin made the comment that if Bryce Young is truly nearing $1 million in endorsement money, then he might as well just take the year off and not bother to play against Ole Miss this season. But I also thought, Kiffin, he got a lot of questions about his quarterback, Matt Corral, and I thought that really speaks to the expectations not only for Corral this year. I think he enters this season maybe as the headline quarterback in the SEC, but also why I think Ole Miss is a little bit of a trendy dark horse in the SEC. I think much of that stems from the expectations for Corral.
I agree, Blake. And what's interesting about Kiffin, he's really different from all the other coaches. He was glad to take more questions. He wasn't trying to sell his program. Lane is not at his best in that kind of a group session. He's at his best one-on-one. You did a really good interview with him recently for a column. He's at his best one-on-one, and you have to pay attention to pick up on his humor sometime. He's very deadpan. He never changed his expression the entire time he was at the lectern. But he's so funny. He hasn't lost that timing for humor that he's always had. I just thought he was very entertaining, but he was genuinely shocked that Bryce Young got that kind of deal. He probably hadn't noticed that the LSU gymnast is doing pretty well in terms of revenue. But I just think it reminded us that he's different from the other coaches. And he played well today.
As you mentioned, John, Lane had the shortest opening statement that we've heard throughout the first 2 days. Kirby Smart this morning delivered the longest opening statement. He was like delivering like a State of the Union address, really. Kirby went for about 20 minutes talking about his summer travels, his Georgia program, expectations, really just running down the list before he finally opened it up to questions. Big expectations for Georgia. I'll be curious to see how close the vote is between Georgia and Alabama to win the SEC. I know we will both think Alabama will come out ahead of that vote and plan to vote for Alabama. But were you still awake by the time Kirby finished up his opening statement there and got around to questions?
Normally, I probably wouldn't have been. However, I was so intrigued at how prepared he was. It was as though he overthought this, and he tried to anticipate every question and answer each one of them in the monologue. Honestly, I thought he was campaigning for something. I mean, he went right down the line. And is he the first coach at SEC Media Days? I think he is, to ever quote Henry David Thoreau. And please don't try to convince me that Kirby reads a lot of Henry Thoreau. No, but it was timely. What was his line about success that I'll try to paraphrase here? Successful people don't think about it. They're too busy doing it or something.
Too busy. Yeah, successful people are
too busy working than to think about success.
Right.
And so that's what Kirby is doing. He's working.
Yeah, he was really working to come up with that quote, I think. So he had it prepared for today's appearance at Media Days. We got 4 more coaches on tap tomorrow, including Nick Saban from Alabama, and what's always one of the most covered spectacles of SEC Media Days when Saban takes the stage. John and I will be back with you to recap tomorrow, and you can check out all of our coverage, commentary, and analysis throughout the USA Today Network.